I'm Mike Belsito, co-founder of eFuneral, and this video is inspired by a recent post to our resources section from Gail Elaine Tinker. Now, Gail Elaine Tinker is a grief counselor, and she has a private practice where she deals with patients all the time. However, she posted this article, which is Common Myths About Grieving. Now, this is something that's quite interesting because a lot of times people think that there are certainties about grieving when really they're just myths. And so in this video I'm going to highlight a couple of these myths that Gail Elaine Tinker had uncovered, and would invite you to read the rest of them in the post that she made in our resources section. But the two that really come to mind for me is the myth of it's important to keep busy when grieving and don't think about grieving. This couldn't be further from the truth. The reality is everybody's different. To say to somebody that it's important that they don't think about grieving and just keep busy, well, it's really assuming that that's good advice for everybody. And the reality is people need to deal with the death that just occurred rather than not think about it. And how people deal with it and how people think about it, it's going to vary from person to person, but in making sure that that's your standard piece of advice, don't do that. Because the reality is, since everybody's different, that's not going to be true for many, many people. And maybe for some people, they do need to keep busy with tasks and projects, but to say that it's important to not think about the grief itself, it's a misguided statement. The next piece, or myth rather, that I'll highlight here in this video is that children should be sheltered from death. It's not uncommon that when a death happens and you find a child that's trying to deal with that death. Maybe it's the death of a grandparent. It's not uncommon for the statement like, hey, Grandpa, we lost Grandpa today, or Grandpa's passed on. These kind of comments can be incredibly confusing to a child. I mean, think about, saying that we lost Grandpa today, and then think about that child being lost in a department store, and all of a sudden now they're associating the type of loss that they're experiencing in that department store with what Grandpa went through. The reality is those two things, they couldn't be farther from each other than reality. Sharing with a child that Grandpa died today, that's not a bad thing. Certainly you want to factor in the child's age and how you're sharing that information or what exactly you're saying. But be clear. Make sure that the child understands what's going on, because at the end of the day, that child has to grieve too. It's not just about you. It's about the child dealing with the same types of feelings and emotions that you're dealing through. Believe it or not, even if somebody's 5 years old, they can still be feeling these feelings of grief that a 55-year-old would feel. So those are a couple of the myths that I'll uncover here in this video, but I'd invite you to read the full post, and you can find that at efuneral.com/resources. And for more videos like this, you can visit our official YouTube channel at youtube.com/efuneralresources.